Alright, hello everyone. Obviously I am not a Let's Play channel, but I have been excited about this game for a little bit, and I'm just gonna play a touch of it to show you what it's like. So welcome to Gladio Mori, the gladiator fighting dueling game thing. Right now it's just a free Steam demo, and I'm gonna show you a little bit about what it's all about. So, this is the game. This is your guy. He has a couple things he can do. He can kind of walk forward. He can kind of walk backwards. He can kind of strafe and kind of strafe the other direction. He can also pivot on the front foot in either direction. And then, of course, he can attack from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the bottom, from the left to the right, from the right to the left, a stab, and he has a block. Left, right, up, down, and if you block while stabbing, you just stab, because the best defense is a good offense. So, you can also use mouse controls. That's what the arrows are showing. If I were now to left click, it would do a left attack, because you can see the left arrow. And if I were to go the other way, it would then do a right attack. They just added this, and I don't like it, but I do like that I can control the camera to kind of look around a little bit. Now, we are going to jump right into an AI match, and this timescale here is very important. You can pick between quarter speed, half speed, three-quarter speed, and full speed. Full speed is basically a game of who draws first. Whoever stabs first will just win. 0.25 speed, there's a lot more thinking, a lot of time, but the game is obviously slower. I prefer 0.5 speed. I'm not good enough for 0.75 yet, and 1.0 is basically insane. So this is us on the left. I'm just going to give us the basic Bardiche, and we're going to give the AI the basic Bardiche. So, here we go. There's a multiplayer. I don't have friends right now, so we're just going to hack at this guy with a Bardiche, and he's dead. All right, there we go. Job done. So, Gladio Mori has a full damage system that is accurate to the body. Accurate asterisk. So, obviously, my metal blade passed through both sides of his skull like a hot knife through butter. Bone density isn't really a thing, but the game does track stuff like brain damage. That is what the AI died of. You can die of... Whoa, hello, mouse. You can die of blood loss. You can have limbs disabled by hits like that. As you can see, I now have no abs because he stabbed me in the stomach. But I got him in the jugular, so he's going to bleed out. History would call me the victor, but frankly, I disagree. I think we both lose there. And as you can see, the game is very fast-paced. When you're not trying to narrate, it is pretty easy at this point, to think about what is happening and what is coming in the future. But now that I'm talking, I'm getting a lot worse at it, and I wasn't good to begin with. So I'm going to try and shut up for a round, and then we're going to see what we can see here. Okay, his Bardiche is stuck in my ribs. Mine is stuck in his pelvis, though, so it seems like a fair trade. Okay, so I took out his legs, he took out my abs. I'm thinking I just go in for a... from the top... Okay, I wanted to guillotine him by dropping the Bardiche on his head, but you can see that my left arm is dripping blood, and so my character doesn't have the strength to raise his weapon. So I can kind of flop it in his direction. Kind of. Oh, Lord. I'm hoping blood loss takes him, but if you look at the zigzag, that's my blood. If we wait for blood loss, I'm not gonna win. Whew. I'm the victor. I stabbed him in the head. You can see that little mark there, killed him. And I am, for the moment, still standing. But you can see, yeah. So, that's Bardiche. Bardiche on Bardiche is not the most interesting, I don't think. They just added to the demo Longsword, and I think Longsword versus Sword and Shield is very interesting. Brief demo of the Longsword. From the top it chops, this is kind of a sweep the legs, and then the other attacks are symmetrical. So left to right, right to left, and it has this really cool, I think it's called Fool's Guard thing, but because it's so snappy, it uses an attack. And then obviously guard high, guard low. He might kill me because I was guarding. Nope. And there we go. That's what I like about Longsword. Even though I was distracted narrating and backing myself literally into a corner, I just waved it around a bit and he kind of died. This kind of grass chopping move is really nice. It comes in handy in a lot of situations. And the longsword itself, in this game at least, there we go, is very fluid, very flexible. There's a lot you can do with it and a lot of different ways you can play it. So I'm going to, what I think is cheating, I've held the low attack so that it stays in the position at the end, and then I'm going to use that to flick it up under his shield, like that. Normally, you can execute it without getting... Oh, he only got me in the leg a little bit. Normally, you can execute it perfectly, where the character will just flick the weapon up, and you can see there on the return, it's a very fast flick, so it knocks the shield out of the way like that. And if you time it perfectly, I mean, you can stab him in the face, but if you time it perfectly, you flick the weapon up, walk forward, and it stabs him in the heart. I think it's kind of cheese because you can't block low left, and you don't have the ability to put muscle in the way you would in real life. So obviously in real life, if you held two swords against each other, whoever was stronger and could push harder would win. But in this game, nothing really has mass. I think I can probably demonstrate that by trying to pick him up. Okay, unless he stabs me in the head. Nothing really has mass, so if I were to get my sword caught up in his knee and I were then to try and enter high guard like this, it would lift him above my head because the characters don't have any weight to them. So even if you're into sword fighting in real life, you may have some stuff to learn about this game because it's not a perfect representation. Except for the blood. I am told that that is very literal. Another thing to note, as you can see, my hands are silvery. They are immune to being wounded. You will never drop your weapon, at least in the demo, unless you die. Obviously, when you ragdoll and die, you drop everything to signify that the match is over. But you can use that fact to set up some interesting guards and weapon binds if you're good. Or if you're me, it happens accidentally. Now, you may have noticed that a lot of my kills are coming from this side attack that is glancing off my opponent's shield and going into their head, like that. This is one of the flaws of the AI, is that it's not actually all that bright. It will, if I just stand still, it will walk towards you, and if you give it a long sword, it actually doesn't know how long the sword is. I think it knows, yeah, it knows how long, clearly the sword and shield, well, yeah, it kind of knows. And it's one of those things where if you just let it try and kill you and not do anything, you see how dumb it is. But because you're also kind of dumb, when you start attacking and it's attacking, it's very easy for it to seem much more intelligent than what it is. I think it basically is just randomly-ish attacking and defending, and it doesn't really think about what is going on at all. Which is why you can constantly catch it with the same trick, like sliding your longsword off the top of their shield and having them guide it for you into their head. But, as you can see here, I'm having a lot more trouble with it because the angle is wrong. I think I'm too far to my right for that slide move to really work. And I killed him there by doing this. I entered this mode, wrapped my sword around his head, and then exited it. And on that exit, you can see the sword tip goes towards my torso, and it shaved off the back of his head, and that counts as a kill in the game. Oh, Lord. So I have a lot of fun just every night playing 15, 20 minutes of it practicing different speeds, trying different approaches, the sort of artificial limits of, okay, I'm gonna have to block 3 times before I attack, or I want to get the killing blow by using a left swing kind of thing. And it's one of those things where not every match is thrilling and interesting and cool, but enough things are different each time that it scratches my brain so nicely. And especially with the addition of a new weapon that behaves pretty differently from the others. I've been having a lot of fun just sort of working out at how to get better at this fighting game demo. And you can see here, I keep trying the same thing, which is a right attack and a left attack, and it's not working. There is a thing you can do with the long sword where you can make it swim like that, where you can go right and then a left. I haven't found a perfect situation for that to be used in yet. And sometimes your arms get... a longsword does this where your wrists get kind of bound up. So we're just gonna... What I'm doing is I'm holding the guard button and mashing... and getting stabbed in the ribs. Holding the guard button and sort of mashing all of the guards to try and wiggle my hands free. Which clearly didn't work. Alright, we're gonna hop back in with different weapons. Let me show you the old meta, from what I understand, was Bardiche, and then Sword and Shield. Hatchets also exist. Let me be fair. I'll play Sword and Shield, they'll play Hatchets. Hatchets suck. So the problem with the first 3 weapons, Bardiche, Hatchet, and Sword and Shield, is that they're very slow. Obviously that didn't look slow, you know, one swipe straight through his brain. What I mean by that is, compared to the longsword, the acceleration is so much worse. I'm gonna press the button on now, and you're gonna see the attack. Now. There's so much delay between attack button being pressed and the character beginning to move that getting kills against someone who is guarding is very difficult. Hatchets are a bad example for this because hatchets are such a light weapon that even this sword and shield combo can just kind of knock them aside. But Bardiche versus sword and shield is very difficult for the sword and shield player because they just don't have the acceleration they need to get the hits they need. Just to compare, I will show you at 1-time speed what I mean by slow. So this is now 1-time speed. I'll just give them a Bardiche, why not? So this is now real time. And obviously my swipes, you know, they look pretty real. But if you look at my character, his legs don't move, his hips don't move. It's just... Okay, well, I was looking at my character and not the enemy weapon. Let me be smart here. Turn the AI off. So if you look here, my attack ends at, let's say, the 10 o'clock position. So there's no follow through. If the person I'm attacking is at 11 o'clock, all of my power is gone by the time the sword reaches their torso. To circumvent this, you can begin your attack in turn, and that will use the momentum of your turn, just like you would in real life. It uses the momentum of your turn to sort of drive the sword deeper, but timing that is another thing, and it's a whole other fiddle of kish. And in this speed, you can clearly see there are also 2 special attacks. There's special 1 and special 2. On the longsword, that's the weird twisty blender move. On this one, what the hell is this? Like, am I signaling traffic? What's going on? I've found it to be useful in 1 instance. It's against a longsword player who has bound his weapon up in your shield. Because you don't have the ability to raise your shield anymore, so you can't do either of your normal attacks or your stab, and obviously not your up and down. That special will sort of like kind of poke them in the chest. That's the one usage I've found for it. Otherwise, the moveset itself is fine. They're adding the ability to to edit your moveset, and I'm very excited because for right now, I disagree strongly with most of these moves. I dislike, if I try and give you a side view, obviously, this is how, like, kids playing with lightsabers would try and hit someone, where it's only their arm, there's no follow-through, there's no power behind it, compared to the longsword, which is obviously the newest weapon, and there's been a lot of development other than that. You can see how the power of the strike is sort of directly in front of me and off to my left. There's not a lot of power at the right, but that's fine because there's a lot of speed at the right. And in this game, speed and power are very similar. So even if I'm attacking desperately, if someone's at my 3 o'clock or maybe my 1.5 o'clock and I do this, it might not power through their shield, but if they're a hatchet or if a sword player or even a Bardiche player, it will just push through them because it's fast and speed and power are the same. And obviously, the symmetry makes it a much easier weapon to play because I know that this and this are the same thing. I'm attacking in basically the same spot. My power band, if you will, is on my left side here. It's on my right side here. The power band, or what I'm referring to it, is where the attack has more torque and less speed. So it's partially where it slows down. And obviously, you can see here, with the down attack, my knees are flexing, my hips are bending. I'm bringing the sword to the floor. Look at the follow through, right? If it was the other weapon, it would look more like this. What I'm doing now is I'm pumping the W button to get them to sort of half do it. It would look sort of more like this, where there's not a lot of power behind it and there's no follow through. And that's really useful. The follow through is really useful because it means you can hold an attack down and then let it go. And now when the attack comes up, this is going to be very difficult to demonstrate. When the attack comes up, there's speed there, and speed is power. So you can slip under a shield, you can slip under guard, let go of the attack, and when the character brings the weapon up, now you're doing damage on the way back. This blender move is ridiculous. I can do 2 attacks in the time a sword and shield player can do 1. All I'm doing is I'm hitting O and U, which are the special moves. And I'm not letting either of them really hit their full rotation. If you see it from the top, this is at rest. This is special 1. My sword is all the way on my right. This is special 2. My sword is mirrored, basically mirrored, onto my left. If I let it come fully to rest, you can see that it's doing a full 360 in a fraction of a second. And I don't need, well, it's doing more than a 360. It's doing from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock all the way through. And I don't need it to do that. I just need to hit someone in front of me. So I can make it go even faster by letting the button go early. And I don't know if it's picking it up on the recording, but my screen is actually ghosting. I'm seeing multiple swords. It's moving so quickly. And when you're playing against a player, let's get us back into an AI game. It'll be more entertaining. When you're playing against a player who is wielding a slower weapon that doesn't have the power or the speed, it's much easier to take advantage of your strengths, which is everything. You have all the advantages. Bardiche used to be the meta because of its reach. Now it doesn't have that. Really, what it does have, kind of, is power still. All of its attacks are kind of like, are kind of like water. By which I mean, you know, a water pushing against a bridge will eventually knock it over. The longsword doesn't quite have that raw torque, which is why, to beat any of these weapons, all the longsword player has to do is use their fast moves, like this, to get into the guard of the other player, and then they're dead. If, by some miracle, the AI blocks you, and I've not actually played against Bardiche, so I don't know how they're going to react to it. poorly is how they're going to react. If by some miracle your longsword gets bound up by the enemy, and I'll let them have this one. I'm guarding left to try and go them into an attack. Please, no, stop trying to take my feet off. Okay, I walked onto their bardiche, I think. That wasn't smart. If they get bound up, we'll play ball, man. I said, if they get bound up, see, they're not great at this. The AI is not very reactive. Anyway, they get bound up. All I have to do as a longsword player is switch to my close melee attack, also known as my specials, because all of that rotation happens above my head. It's very difficult for them to block my arms from moving, so the attack almost always goes off. Whereas if I have to do something like this, if they're standing too close, I can't get the attack off. I can't get the power I need. But this blender thing happens above my head. So I have a close melee, and I have a mid-range, and I have a distance. Originally, this video was going to be me playing against hatchets and complaining about how bad hatchets are. And they are bad. I will, now that I'm hyping it up so much, I will play against a longsword wielder while I have hatchets, and you're going to watch me get rocked repeatedly. Because hatchets are the exact opposite of the longsword. They are close range, they are slow, and they have no torque. Well, no torque in relation to something like the bardiche, which is only torque. So my only, yeah, okay. I've not found a way to win yet. I've not practiced a whole lot, but I cannot find a way to win reliably. Obviously there I got lucky. He missed his longsword attack because I sidestepped, and then I crabbed to the right and hit one of those, and headshots kill. But if I try and play like I care about my life, where, see? I wasn't dead until he got out of the attack, and then when he came back out of it, it stabbed me again. Anyway, if I play like I care about my life, and I try and guard, all I'll do is try and block his attacks for a bit. Oh god. Okay. So that's, what, 2? That's, oh... okay, I got 2. Because the longsword and all the weapons in this game don't really telegraph the way they would in real life. The difference between this hatchet move and that hatchet move is nothing until the move has occurred. You can't tell what's going to happen. It's just my elbows moving. So by the time you realize what's going on, it's too late, and you're dead. The only tactic for hatchets that I can think of that might work is the Angry Badger. It's called, you run at them, you try and block their first attack, and then you don't let them get away. You just keep hacking. You use the only thing you have, which is the fact that you have 2 hatchets and they have 1 longsword. So you should, in real life, I imagine, I've never fought to the death with hatchets, but I imagine that a big part of the benefit of 2 is that when one gets locked up, you have the autonomy to use the other. Not that it, you know, works in this game. Ow, my bones. There we go. And with all the other weapons, I tend to prioritize headshots. Obviously, because with the longsword and bardiche, it's a lot easier to get a headshot than with hatchets, because all the hatchet attacks are pretty low. Even the specials are low. Honestly, even the high attack, this is the high attack, is low. So I think aggressive badger tactic is charge, block high, since it's the only thing that can really instant kill you, and then just left-right attack until they're dead. Huh. I was testing it just before I started recording, and it was working way less well for me. Maybe I wasn't at... Oh, okay. So if you block high and they do anything other than try and chop your head off, it doesn't go wonderfully for you. At 0.5, I can still kind of react to, I can still kind of react to an attack, and some of the time I can block an attack in progress. But at the higher, I went the wrong way. But at the higher speeds, that's not possible. So I'm not convinced yet that hatchets versus longsword is skill-based as much as longsword versus anything else is. Because when I kill someone, when I'm using any other weapon, I feel like I played it right. I did something, some intrinsic part of me and my performance changed the outcome. With hatchets, it's... I feel like it's a lot more... Did the AI randomly decide to do a different attack that time, and so I got lucky and I could stab them in the lungs? Versus, I used the movesets that I've been practicing to best them in combat. Just for comparison, we're gonna now... Seal Club, we're gonna give them hatchets, and I'm doing longsword. And... yeah. It's not a fair test because the AI is worse at blocking than I am. I'm pretty sure I could do just this a couple times in a row and I would win, but that's not super interesting. So we're gonna let them attack first. Just get close enough that... okay. So, that was a good test run. We're gonna let them attack first, non-fatally, hopefully. And okay, this is not thrilling. See, it's not attacking longsword against sword and shield especially, but even longsword against longsword. It's interesting. Things happen that isn't just, oh, they're dead. Oh, I'm dead. You know, there's a fight there. And this is what I mean about the weight thing. I've picked them up. Against hatchets, longsword is just... yeah. So, Gladio Mori is, I think, a very good fighting game. As long as you agree to its rules. You've got to buy into the idea that it is not a simulator of real weaponry. Obviously, because I'm cutting through people's entire torsos and etc. There are other weapons planned. There are bits of armor planned. I'm very excited for armor. I think that's going to change the math a whole lot. And it's going to make something like longsword much more interesting and much more vital. And I believe there's like a story mode planned and, you know, all that. And on the testing screen right now, there's a points system. So the different weapons have different points and they're worth different amounts and all that. So I know that there's more coming. They've been picked up by a publisher. All signs are good for this game. I'm really looking forward to it. The demo is free and there is multiplayer. You host a server and play against your friends. I think you should definitely download it. It's a very small game. Even if you just mess around with it for a little bit, the movement is disgusting. The movement is awful. But thinking of it like QWOP with swords gets you a whole lot of the way. And the slower you play it, the more it is like a puzzle game and less about reaction times. 0.25 speed is really like playing chess. It's about thinking where you are, where you gotta go, etc. 0.5 is my favorite because it's a mix of that puzzle game feeling and that feeling of actually fighting, where you need to be paying attention to what's going on and also planning and reacting all at once. So, this was my look into Gladio Mori. I don't normally do Let's Plays, so I don't have a sign off. Thank you for watching. Please play the game with me.